Hello everyone, Mr. Boltri here bringing you video 2.9 in which I'm going to get you ready for the lab that we're going to run in our next class, which is the motion detector lab. So first of all, what is a motion detector? This little green thing is a motion detector and it detects the motion of objects. So how does it work? Well, a lot of you have heard of echolocation, but if you haven't, that's something that bats and dolphins, and now we have technology that does it too. It basically sends out a sound and then waits to see how long it takes the sound to come back. So the farther something is away from the motion detector or the bat, the longer it takes for the sound to come back. So if I make a little clicking sound, then I can, if I have a really advanced technology like the ears of the bat or the motion detector, I can time exactly how long it takes for the sound of that click to go out, hit something, and then come back. So the longer it takes to come back, that means the farther away something is. And then the faster it comes back, the closer something is. So in that way, you'll hear when you use the motion detector, it makes a lot of little clicking sounds. And that's because it is sending out the sounds to see how long it takes for those sounds to come back to determine the position and therefore the motion of an object. So how do you actually set up and use the motion detector? Well, the first thing is the clicking sounds come from this circle. So you want that circle to be pointing at whatever you are looking at the motion of. So in this situation, if I'm looking at the motion of something over here on the left, I will point the motion detector over to the left. So be very careful to make sure that the circle is actually pointing at the object, because sometimes people tilt it too far down and then it points to the table and then they get bad readings. Also, make sure that it is in the correct setting. So these motion detectors can be used for the motion of objects like people and balls, or they can be used on a track where they're looking at a cart. So unless you're specifically looking at a cart that is on a track, you want kind of the random objects setting. So just make sure that your motion detector is on the correct setting. And then to actually start to use it, once it's pointing in the right direction, you're going to want to connect it to your laptop. So first we connect it using this wire to, this is called a digital signal converter. It's basically just a fancy way for the information from the motion detector to get translated into a language that your laptop can understand. And then we have to connect it to the laptop using a USB. But your laptops no longer have USB ports. So please, 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 for our lab, bring your USB to USB-C adapter, which was given to you when you got your laptop. So you may have to go and look at the stuff that was given to you when you got your laptop and find this little white adapter that has a USB on one end and a USB-C on the other end. And then once we get all this plugged into the computer, we're going to launch Logger Pro. What is Logger Pro? Logger Pro is an app that basically takes the information from the motion detector or a whole bunch of sensors that we can use and makes graphs of those motions. So you can download Logger Pro using self-service, which you can just access from your laptop. You can just go in the Finder and type in self-service. And then in self-service, you can go under search and download Logger Pro. And some of you may have Logger Pro from years past, but since we all just got new laptops, you might not. So you're definitely going to want to check. And the one trick to this is in order to download stuff using self-service, you have to be on the school's Wi-Fi. So make sure that you do this either during your free period or first thing that you come in the morning that we're going to do the lab, or after school if you're watching this before the day of the lab. And make sure that you come to class with Logger Pro downloaded. Because then when you launch Logger Pro, it'll look something like this, which is this is just a nice big graph area for us to graph our data. But right now it has Y's and X's because you'll see in the top left that no device is connected. So when we actually connect the motion detector, it will make our position versus time and velocity versus time graphs for us. So that's how you'll know when you get the position versus time and velocity versus time graphs is how you'll know that you've connected everything correctly. So then to actually run the lab, actually to use Logger Pro, you'll need to hit, there's a lot of useful buttons up here, but the number one most useful one is this green collect button. So once you hit that green collect button, the motion detector will start sending out the little clicks and recording the position and the velocity of the object. And then the only other button that I want to draw your attention to is this auto scale button. There's different ways to zoom in on the graphs. You can use the plus and minus button, or you could double click on the axis and determine the scale of the graph for yourself. But this auto scale button is probably going to be the easiest way to make sure that your graph is the correct size. So All that being said, we will run the lab in our next class. And in order for you to come prepared to run the lab, I need you to do three things. One, make sure you bring your USB to USB-C adapter with you to school. Two, bring your charger just so we can make sure that everybody's laptops has enough charge to run the lab. And three, either in your free period or before class, sometime on the school Wi-Fi, go to self-service and make sure that your laptop has downloaded Logger Pro. But all that being said, I'm looking forward to running this lab in our next class. More instructions will be given on what we'll actually be doing. But I kind of wanted to give you an overview of the basics of motion detectors so I don't have to waste time taking up lab time explaining all this to you. So I'll see you in our next class so we can run the lab. But until then, go Bears.